Well, hello and welcome to another episode. Today, I want to take the time and maybe read through what other people industry have to say, yeah, about UX, the state of UX, what's happening for creatives out there. And I think that's a good idea. Once in a while, spend some time listening to others, broadening a bit your understanding, or getting more accurate image by spending a bit of time outside of what's happening only with your project or within your team or company. Of course, I would be happy to hear your opinions. Feel free to share in the comments down below if you're experiencing something similar, if you agree or you disagree what the author has to say. Now, the article is titled "A Crisis of Meaning in UX Design. Does UX Design Work Feel Meaningless Lately? You're Not Alone." Written by James Harrison, March 2025. So it's quite recent. The big empty. If you're a UX designer and you don't live under a rock, you've probably caught wind of the sense that things in the industry are a little gloomy. What I hear from friends and colleagues is echoed through LinkedIn posts, Medium articles, and industry forecasts. The work just feels a bit meaningless at the moment. Yeah, guys and girls out there, please try to avoid to get inspiration from LinkedIn posts. I would say it's not the best source, but it's gonna be up to you where you spend your time. Maybe you found yourself asking why you got into UX in the first place. Maybe you're like problem solving. Maybe you are led here by a passion for design, or you're interested in people, technology. I would say ideally all of them. Maybe it was so you had something to write clever articles about. No, not necessarily. Maybe you wanted to make a positive impact on a wide scale. Now, this with the impact on a wide scale, not all of us are going to work for Google or Uber or some large company like that, which has products used by billions of users. Still, I think it's important to make an impact wherever you find yourself now. But what parts of your job feel true to that today? Instead, you're burnt out doing work you're not proud of for reasons that you're not passionate about and feeling like you're pushing pixels instead of doing stimulating work. I wouldn't use passionate and stimulating as words related to work. At the end of the day, that work is just that. You can find things to be passionate about outside of work or that stimulate you. So, yeah, when will this all change? Should you get a better job? What if there is no better job? Do you work for one of the shrinking number of very large corporations and execute whims that aim to inflate shareholder prices and or enrich weird billionaires? The compensation is good and you might enjoy some stability at least until the company restructures to spend more money on AI. Well, if the compensation is good and that makes you happy, I mean, I don't see a problem there. Of course, the shareholders are there to make money. Uh, yeah, that's how things work. There are the people with the money and the people with the work. A manager of mine told me once. As for the reasons companies restructure, yeah, AI can be one of them. The economical cycles. There are multiple things. It can happen. Alternatively, you could roll the dice at a startup, work in a maybe fun but maybe toxic environment, creating window dressing for some film bros half-baked disruptive idea that likely can't achieve profitability without exploiting a subset of people or breaking a law. Maybe it will work out and you'll get some stocks, maybe it won't. So no matter what you choose, this would be the startup approach. Still is not good. Yeah, that's a bit sad to look at the world like that. If you want the moral high ground, you can go for a non-profit cause. You'll be poorly paid, but if your six roommates aren't too loud, you can sleep at night. I wouldn't want to experiment something like that. That doesn't sound fun. That is until you realize that your NGO's board is made up of families and friends of the same weird billionaires, and that the non-profit's dependence on major donors means that they fundamentally decide what you do and don't do. What if there's no job at all? Employment circumstances have changed, the labor market generally has slackened, and tech companies across the board have introduced cuts in the past few years. I think we all know that. It's not a surprise anymore. Maybe that's affected you. Maybe your LinkedIn page is filling up with folks who are open to work. Yeah, do leave a message if, I don't know, the last year or last 2 years you've been impacted, yeah, by the layoffs. In either case, you're either frantically learning about or conveniently ignoring the drumbeat of AI, watching companies pour money into what they won't say, but is the hope that the technology will advance enough to replace people, replace you maybe, and thus save money. You still need to work to live. What do you do? Panic maybe periodically when you need to be up early the next morning. Yeah, panic is not good. Just try to see what you can do wherever you find yourself now. Panicking won't help, but most of the time you're just going to go to work, do what you have to, and then go home and binge watch yourself into oblivion. No, there are people that after working hours, well, it's your business what you do after the working hours, but not everybody just sits on the couch watching TV. Some try to learn a foreign language, or maybe go to the gym, or meet friends, or go to some events and concerts. Um, yeah, I'm paraphrasing these sentiments, of course, and obviously drawing on some hyperbolic examples to make my point. So the author admits that he's exaggerating. Um, but designers aren't feeling challenged right now. And that's a concern for both designers and the people who employ them. I don't know. I think there are plenty of new things out there that you can learn, you can try. Recently, I was looking over Rive, is called. Um, it's an animation tool. It's like Figma, but more geared towards animations. There are things you can do that can challenge you. So tell me about you guys. Are you feeling challenged or not? 2023, the design is really bad year. If you're a non-designer reading this, no need to feel too left out. Stuff sucks. The feeling that your work doesn't matter, that's kind of par for the course of at the moment if you work in tech, or maybe anywhere. Maybe not if you make cheese or shoes or something cool like that. Okay, so giving a bit of praise to the blue collar workers, but designers might be feeling the pain rather acutely at the moment. Um, no, I only have a small back pain from yesterday gym, but besides that, nothing. There's been a dark cloud following design around for the past few years, and well, it's got an amplifying effect on the bad vibes. At the start of 2024, UX Collective annual State of UX coined the term late stage UX, which is characterized by its market saturation, heavy focus on financial growth, commoditization, automation, and increased financialization. Corporations exert significant influence over the economy and society, and designers can only push so far when advocating for users' needs. I think that's true. I think there's more focus on automation, on making the numbers, gaining some financial growth. I think that is what we see now, and in today's economy, it makes sense. Um, so it's less about taking risks and innovating, and more about going with what they have and they know it works and makes money. Late stage UX laments the end of the party for UX and maybe design at large, where a function that once loomed large now had to contend with its own declining influence. Fast Company writer Robert Fabricant called 2023 the closing of a chapter for design. In this article, The Big Design Freakout. Yeah, you can go to the article if you want to read more. Okay, he details what amounts to design losing its seat at the table. After almost 2 decades of Apple inspired upswing that saw design roles elevated into the boardroom, the rise of the design thinking practice, and massive demand for talent, the design bubble started to wobble and then burst fully by the end of 2023. In 2024, design continued its downward slide. Today, chief design officer roles have faded. The design thinking area has ended. Designers are in less demand and under increasing threat of replacement. Yes and no. It's true that it's not as 2 or 3 years ago, but I wouldn't say it's something that disappeared. It is just not the hype as it used to be. Um, yeah, maybe once in a while you're not gonna be the most popular kid on the block. Someone else, yeah, is gonna uh, have the latest and greatest, but you need to accept it. It's not the end of the world. More than anything else, businesses have, on the whole, changed their attitude towards design, its value, and the type of work that designers should do. Um, yeah, and something else from UX Collective. It's stated here: we're handing our design systems to growth teams so they can squeeze every last penny out of customers. We're optimizing our flows for clicks, not clarity. We stopped building tools and started building engagement traps. Design dark patterns, if it rings any bell. While in the past UX had a certain aura of care for users, in 2024 we are bluntly following the numbers. In many companies, the pursuit of growth is overshadowing the pursuit of meaning. Things were going so well. What happened? From innovators to optimizers to machines. UX veterans might speak of good old days where design was more free, before the MVP sucked the soul out of the work. This stands for minimum viable product, and discarded the time and space designers needed so desperately in order to be able to think, reflect, and play. Now, yeah, if you came across this concept or worked on MVPs, basically is just a core feature or a core set of features good enough to be shipped, yeah, to be pushed to the market, to start onboarding customers and to test if the solution is viable. And that kind of leaves not a lot of room for ideation and innovation. This occurred in a very specific context, a technological paradigm shift. The explosion of mobile, social, and cloud technologies reshaped the way we all live. The modern tech company emerged in the innovation stage. Design offered immense value to companies looking to distinguish their products and services. Business had technology they didn't know how to wield, and so the designers acted as a sense maker, helping to translate capability into tangible, useful, and desirable products and services. In an environment where capturing users was competitive, designers became oracles for the voice of the user, protectors of all that was good and right in the world, and confident that they were the ones negotiating business goals with human needs. Yeah, I think again, this is a bit exaggerated. I heard this before that you're advocating for the users and the best interests of the users, but the reality is that um, you need to take into account yeah, the goals and the objectives of the business of the people that hired you and pay you, um, and is not only the designer advocating for the customers or the users. Oftentimes you're going to talk with support people, marketers, sales people, sales rep. So the UX is not solely on the designer's shoulders. Okay, in 2004, Bill Green wrote, most companies understand that the product must be more than the sum total of its functioning parts because today's customer first experiences a product through its design. Whether it's Jonathan's iPod or Tom Ford final collection for Gucci, a product must speak to a customer's emotions, and emotions are sparked by design. And so design, when it is done well, is deeply rooted in a corporation's culture. It reflects the real idea behind the product and by extension behind the company that created it. Design shapes a company's reason for being. It has become an undeniably transformative force in business and society. Um, yeah, uh, I think this comes, yeah, from the good old days of Apple and Steve Jobs. Over the course of time, the paradigm aged and the space for innovation within it shrank. There's some organic, cyclical aspects to this through human history, of course. The companies that found success in the space became massive, publicly traded companies, and we know them. Um, so, yeah, when you're a publicly traded company, you're gonna be really careful, and your main concern is your stock price and making the shareholders invest more. uh, yeah, being happy and positive about what you're doing. And oftentimes they even do things that are not exactly, let's say, nice, just to increase the stock price. Tech CEOs might have chosen hooded sweatshirts over tailored shoes, but just like every other company, turning a profit and delivering year on year shareholder value was now a must. The seed money, once seemingly being pumped into office via pipe in the ceiling, now had to come from things like sales streams, subscriptions, and ads. Yeah, so um, it's a bit difficult nowadays to get access to money uh, due to the increased costs of borrowing. So, what he's saying here is that a company, in order to keep its operations going, they also need to make sales, yeah, to generate sales and to make users subscribe or pay for ads. Um, yeah, and I think we see this now in what's happening nowadays. Design value has always been less tangible than other disciplines. There's good evidence that companies who invest in design perform better and deliver more value for investors, but the exact how is still elusive. Looking at design as a line on a spreadsheet, you can't expect that companies who didn't have their own iPhone moments to fully understand what they're paying for. That's true. I think, yeah, not every company out there has is Apple, and not all of them have products like the iPhone. And sometimes, yeah, the design is not always easy to measure. The In a cost-conscious environment with less opportunity for innovation to occur, there was a phase shift towards optimization, making fewer things and more money from those things. I think that's kind of what many companies out there try to do. Yeah, let's actually try to make more with what we have, or manage to make the same but by spending less. uh, I think that's how many business operate. Design's double diamond process, once proudly championed in design thinking workshops everywhere, was just too slow. A drawn out discovery process could lose out to a gamble, a few high profile good guesses, and going with your gut, big bets, or if you heard of this founder mode, started to be thought of as a viable alternative, which it is, provided you ignore all the times it goes wrong. Now, what the double diamond refers to uh, is actually the life cycle on how product or service gets born. There's a discovery phase where you're going to spend time researching, carrying interviews, looking into data, primary research, secondary research, market analysis, and so on. And then you're going to start to distill this data, look into it, and prioritize and try to articulate, to define what the product or service actually needs to be. From there, you're going to move to prototyping, developing. So, having, let's say, a pilot, testing it, and seeing if indeed your hypotheses were correct, and then building it entirely and delivering it. Um, Now, the reality is that sometimes very few time is allocated to one of those phases, uh, drastically impacting the end quality. And he explains here. Okay, now let's see what the author has to say in regards to um, something that we could do about this, designing ourselves out of complacency. I sat on writing about this issue for months because while I could see the problem quite clearly, I didn't have much in the way of a solution. There's no magic bullet here, but perhaps there are a few things we can try. One of the things designers don't currently do is quantifying the time and effort of our work in terms of the value it brings to an organization. I agree with that. I think there are not so many designers that can express, yeah, the impact of their work. They they struggle with yeah, metrics, with yeah, they don't have this ability to put their results into numbers that speak the business language and make an impact on the business bottom line. Can you truly say that in 6 weeks you deliver something more valuable than you could have in four? How do you actually know? This is something that's going to be crucial for design's future, and it is going to be uncomfortable. Would you ask Michelangelo to quantify the value of Sistine Chapel? Maybe not, but Pope Julius did reportedly threaten to have him thrown off the scaffolding if he didn't finish on time. Um, okay, that's a nice example. Aligning design time and effort to business metrics and hypotheses might not be what you got into UX for, but it might be what keeps you there. Designers might have to swallow their pride here and sincerely ask themselves if the effort spent designing new components versus reusing existing ones is actually worth it to the user and thus to the business. Second, there are fields in which the paradigms and patterns are less established. AI is obviously one of them, also biotech, robotics, and cybersecurity. These are spaces that are innovating, not optimizing, and they'll need smart designers to help guide how users can effectively interact with these new tools. Okay, so yeah, do let me know if you're interested in one of those fields, if you're actually working in one of those fields as a designer, and how things look over there. Last design can still lead from below. It's not unusual for a designer to come to understand the solution to a problem or even a valuable opportunity via their work. Finding ways to bring those ideas to life in a manner that doesn't require taking weeks at a time away from other priorities is possible, and it's something all design leaders should be carving out space for folks to do. Your design is uniquely equipped to bring good ideas to life and to propose and communicate a more cohesive direction for where products can go. Getting back in the room with whoever responds yes to a meeting is a great way of developing a shared vision and one that brings design back to the table with something of value. The absolute worst thing, in my opinion, is to settle into complacency. Nothing is unchangeable. And if designers treat things as such, then they're just accelerating the demise of their own discipline. I also agree with that. Um, yeah, because you basically start to miss opportunities. You you stop growing. Yeah, you basically you stop trying and you actually start failing when you stop trying. Though the process of writing this I spar more than few times because I realize that I really do take meaning from the work that I do. Okay. I truly believe that design can positively impact the world, but on the days that it doesn't, I think it's important to remember that there's meaning to be found outside of your job. And yeah, I agree with that. That's a nice happy ending. Spend time with loved ones, look at the ocean, Pet the cat. Okay, so feel free to drop a comment. Let me know how you feel lately if you're working as a technology professional. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.